what message would you send back to that child?
I would probably tell that child that things that I think are my weakness will eventually become my strengths. My inability to always have to be part of the conversation someday will become my strength. The pain that I'm going through with a family that has an addiction, somewhere down the road will become the foundation of who I am as a human being and to be able to speak on that.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, a show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview, and it will be an amazing interview. I know that already because I've got Ray Lozano with me. Ray is a public speaker, he is a fellow author, he is a fellow traveler on a path that has seen a lot of darkness and has seen a lot of light. He is a man who has found his purpose in life to go out there and make this world a better place with the help of his book, with the help of speeches, with the help of his passion. And I can't wait to let that passion shine here on our show when we discuss probably a number of topics. Ray, welcome to my show.
Oh, I am so excited to be here. I know they were in part of our opening conversation, but I could tell this is going to be fabulous. And talking to you is going to be a highlight of my day.
And likewise. Ray, you're a public speaker, and that in its own right is a bit strange. I mean, who becomes a public speaker? Public speaking is one of these fears that most people have deeply, deeply ingrained in them. How
Right.
did you didn't wake up when you were 8 years old and say, "Hey,
No.
mom, I figured it out. I'm going to be a public speaker."
Yeah. No, you don't wake up doing that. It's so crazy how I got started. And I tell this story part in a book we'll talk about later. But I was the kid in school from like fifth grade on that could not be quiet. Always commenting on stuff, always getting in trouble, and, just telling jokes and doing stuff on the side. So I did that all through fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year in high school. I had 5 hours detention in my social studies class. Every time I got in trouble, it was 15 more minutes detention. I had worked it up to 5 hours. Now, the thing is, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't care because what that meant is I had 5 hours of this teacher's attention that I was going to talk her ear off, right? So at the end of this one day, I had gotten in trouble again for speaking, and she walked up to me and she goes, "No more detention for you." And I'm like, "Yes, no more detention." She said, "When class is over, just stay seated." I'm like, "Okay." Class was over. She picked up her keys and we started walking down the high school campus. Now, I thought we were going to the principal's office, and in my brain, I thought, I don't care. I don't care. I have coffee with the principal twice a week. I got my own chair in there. Not a big deal, right? Just because I was always in trouble for talking. She walked me into our high school auditorium, stood me up on stage, 850 empty chairs. I look at her and I go, "What am I doing?" She goes, "Just stand there and look at those empty chairs." And I'm like, "All right." So I just stood on the stage and I'm just looking at 850 empty chairs. As a sophomore in high school, I never would have done this, right? She goes behind the curtain. She comes out with a theater teacher. She looks at him and looks at me and goes, "This kid's in your class now." And we both go, "What?" She goes, "This kid, man, he's got too many words inside of him. We're going to throw this kid up on stage, see how he does." That is where something happened inside my brain. And I said, "I want to do this for a living." And so, yeah, she's the one that pointed me in the right direction.
Wow. Wow. What a story. What a start. What a
Right?
amazing teacher who has gone out there and believed in you rather than saw you as a troublemaker, saw you
Yeah,
as a wonderful, wonderful kid that is breaking out of its shell and trying to
right.
find sense and purpose in life. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
May I ask, with hindsight, if you look back, was there ADHD or were you in love? Did you have a major crush on your teacher? And was that the driving factor that you wanted to be in detention? If you were
Oh, no,
to
I
look
had
back,
detention in all my classes. Yeah. I don't know. It could have been HD, ADA, it could have been all of that stuff. But I know when I talk to other kids or when I
uh,
go on school campuses right now, I see kids sitting alone at lunchtime a lot.
uh,
When I was in high school, when I would have my tray of food, there were literally tables going, Ray, sit with us, tell us a story, tell us a joke. And I would come up to tables and I'm like, all right, give me three things. And they'd be like a chicken, a motorcycle, and a refrigerator. Tell us a story that has those three things. And I'm like, all right. So I would take a minute and I would think, and then I would tell a story. And kids just loved it, man. And I was not afraid to talk. Anytime there was an opportunity for me to stand in front of the class, I was doing it. So I don't know what you would call that. I don't know what the diagnosis would be, but I just love talking. And I want to make sure when I talk that it's not you've been to those parties, right? Where you run into somebody and all they do is talk about themselves and you're like, ugh, right?
Exactly.
Oh, let me tell you what I did. Let me tell you my vacation. And that drives me crazy. So I want to have a conversation, but I want to ask you questions. So like on your podcast right now, I want to flip it around and find out how you got started. What was your passion? What was the moment that you thought, man, I would love to do a podcast, right? So
Exactly.
I got to be careful because I will turn it around on you and start asking you questions. And yeah.
And these are the best interviews because then I get challenged as a host, and
Right,
it is. But there's a fine line. Obviously, we want to have a powerful and raw and open communication and conversation because
right.
these are so often missing in our lives. We
Hmm.
often wear masks and no one talks honestly. So there is actually a power in what we're just doing. We are two
Right.
men who have been around the block a few times, and we are open about our wins. And more importantly, we are open about our failures, so to speak. And when
Oh
I
yeah.
say failures, I may rather rephrase that and call that opportunities to grow. And
Right.
hell, did I have opportunities to grow? All
Yeah.
the beautiful bad choices I have made in my life that
Right. Right. Right.
resulted
Yep.
in maybe not such great consequences.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here I am. But at the same token, is that not refreshing to actually be able to talk about it? And I think this, if I was to think back about 10, 11 years ago, I went into a rehab,
Uh-huh.
and there is, it is encouraged that you share. And that was so foreign for me to actually be
Hmm.
open, be honest, because as, for example, as any holic, alcoholic, workaholic, whatsoever, we are so good in denial, in
Hmm.
thinking there's nothing wrong with us. No, 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 no. And in hiding. Okay,
Hmm.
if you're an alcoholic, well, you're hiding that you're hungover in the morning, then you're hiding that you're thinking about the alcohol, you're hiding buying the alcohol, you're hiding drinking the alcohol, and then you're hiding that you're drunk.
Right.
So, these are all things that are so ingrained in us. And this
Yeah.
hiding is so deeply ingrained, but is also
Oh
there
yeah.
are, if you think back about the public speaking, but us going out there on stage, there is a great fear there because think
Oh yeah.
back when we were living in caves, when there were about, 50 to 200 people in our tribe. If
Uh-huh.
you were speaking out in a way that was not accepted, if you were doing things that were not accepted, you were ostracized, you were thrown out of the tribe, which at
Right.
that time, that was a death sentence.
Yeah.
Would not
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that is hardwired in us. Do not
Uh-huh.
speak up. Do not something. Why is there so much shame and guilt running through our
Stay in
society?
the crowd. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
so difficult. So I love it that you are there and modeling that we have the power to go out there and be open and be accountable for ourselves. I think that
Right.
is the
Right.
nice thing, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Openness also means that you actually hold yourself accountable and be
Yeah.
strong. And that is true leadership, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you were just said a moment ago about those things that hold us and you had to overcome this feeling when you went into spring. Because I think that's what holds so many people back is that fear. The fear of quitting this job and trying out a new job. The fear of standing on stage, the fear of changing my life, the fear of moving from one city to another city. And it's that fear that locks people in that keeps them in the same spot. And eventually, I think life challenges them and says, you know what, you're not willing to move, but I'm going to do some stuff that's going to force you into that position.
Hmm.
You think about you going into, treatment and stuff like that. There must have been a moment where life said, enough, I'm going to force you to go and start doing this
Hmm.
because I need you to change to fulfill some hole that you were designed to fulfill in life. And think about
Yes.
the lives that you changed just through your podcast alone.
Mm,
There's got to be moments where people sat and listened to your podcast, thought, man, that's exactly what I need to hear right now.
mm,
And had you not gone into sobriety, that piece of life would have been missing right there. And
mm.
so, yeah, you overcame your fear and challenged life, and exactly, you fell, but you fell forward.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it, falling forward.
Yeah.
I like that. I have to steal that, actually. That is too
It's
good.
yours.
But I think that is the key to us, isn't it? We are our worst enemies. We
Oh yeah.
are creating obstacles in our way that actually don't need to be there.
Right.
And
Right.
if we can just actually accept it and move forward to it. Having said that, often enough, there's also societal pressures there and societal, how the way people look at us. It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy. And I think it's getting easier to be labeled in nowadays society. And maybe
Right.
that's the reason that we see so much bullshit on
Yeah.
social media when it comes to everyone. I mean, I'm always joking that there are women out there who have only got one side of the face. So,
Mm.
this is,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never see the other side. And there's
Uh-huh.
always something, doctor.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And for crying out loud, the amount of big sunglasses that we see out there, why is that? They might as well
Uh-huh.
wear a full-size helmet, a face helmet,
Right.
and say that's about this as much,
Yeah.
The beauty lies in the eyes. And
Yeah.
nowadays you see no, very few pictures of people on dating websites. They always have big
Yeah.
glasses on.
Passes. Yeah. Hiding as much as they can. There's a thing that we have in our house all the time because I get this real concerned look on my face. And it's a term that we use. My wife will say, "Where's the tiger?" And what it my brain is constantly looking for the tiger. And so what that means is, let's say me and you were hunter gatherers, okay?
Uh,
And so we see this big, huge field of watermelons, and we love watermelons, right? And so we come up there and we're looking at these watermelons and we think, man, this is going to be so good. We found this. We're going to really be able to have this feast. But as soon as we see a tiger on the other end of that watermelon field, right? Watermelons aren't important anymore. The important thing is the tiger.
yeah,
So it is taken away from the watermelon.
yeah,
So the problem that I have, and I'm willing to confess this, right, is I will see a patch of watermelons and go, this is going to be delicious. This is going to be fantastic for me. But for some reason, my brain takes away from the goodness and it starts looking for the tiger, right?
absolutely.
So my wife will come up to me. She just did it this morning. She goes, "All right, I see that you're thinking." I was like, "'Cause I was sitting in my chair." She goes, "Where's the tiger? Tell me where the tiger is." And I'm like, "This is the tiger." And I went on to explain it. And then she very lovingly goes, "There's no tiger there. Enjoy the watermelon." And it instantly switches me because it takes away that fear that I have. And I think that's one of the things that you're talking about, people with big sunglasses, people
Uh,
with trying to hide who they are. Somehow they've allowed the tiger to take over from the
yeah,
watermelon patch. I
yeah,
hope all of that makes sense. But there's
yeah.
so many days I have to go, there's no tiger in the watermelon patch. I need to sit and enjoy this moment. And it's radically changed my life just with that one little segment right there.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. You created an anchor. You created something where you can hold on to, where you can get back into a reality. You get out of your head, out of the fears, and actually do a reality check with that. And a reality check that is created by love. You have linked that anchor with the love of your wife. How
Right.
beautiful is that? Ah,
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Love is one of the most disarming powers that are out there.
Oh yeah.
Unconditional love makes any anger melt away, and in most
Right.
cases,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and
the good part that she does is she allows me to hunt for that tiger for about 30 minutes or so,
yeah,
and then after 30 minutes of searching, she's like, "There's no tiger there. You need to stop looking for it." I'm like, "You're right, I do." And this morning, you know, just thinking about stuff and just my
uh,
brain was reeling and thinking about all these different
mm,
aspects. When you're in charge of your own business, you think about how do I keep the business going?
absolutely.
And that's where my brain goes. So this morning she was super helpful, and yeah, I'm super cheery now.
Ah, brilliant. But
Yeah.
then again, there is an emotional intelligence there that has needed time to ripen. That
Right.
was you needed the many bad decisions in your life to actually learn from them, and
Oh yeah.
you took them on as a matter of fact. And here
Hmm.
you are in this position, and so many
Right.
people out there are not. Now, a quick word to the fact that the tigers are out there.
Hmm.
There is violence out there. There
Yes.
is there is some nasty things happening all around
Hmm.
us. So
Hmm.
to have a healthy situational awareness is of such importance.
Right. Right.
Having been the victim of violence, I have got a very good situational awareness, which made me a really good doctor. It was really difficult to catch me out in the sense of an emergency, etc. So
Right.
good, there are some good aspects to that. But if that is the only thing that you're ever thinking about, that I mean, still am the man who sits with the back against the wall, knows where the exits are, observes the entrance to make sure that
Mm.
there's nothing there, and that is in a restaurant, etc. So
Yeah.
I still am that man, and I will be till I die. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with having a good situational awareness, but if you're constantly driven by fear, and if you're constantly driven and expecting to be attacked, now there's something wrong with that. There is
Yeah.
something, that is where the line needs to be drawn between
Right.
good situational awareness and hyper arousal and really signs of PTSD, signs of trauma.
Well, what you have done right there uh, is you have identified that there definitely is a tiger, right?
Uh,
And so you have not just said, well, there's a tiger. I'm not going to do anything about it. But sitting in the back of the room with your back against the wall, knowing where the exit is, that's you taking on that tiger. And so there's legitimate times when I'm thinking there's a tiger in the watermelon patch, and she'll go, "What is that tiger?" And I'm like, "There's legitimately a
uh,
tiger in the watermelon patch. I need to
nice,
go and take care of this email. I need to go and sit down and focus on this grant. I need to go and make this phone
nice.
call." And then
Yeah.
once I legitimately, and this is a different book that I'm writing, the problem is people they don't make eye contact with their tiger.
Uh,
Kudos to you, sir. You made contact with your eye, with your tiger. You looked it in the eye and you said, "This is how I'm going to defeat you.
hmm,
I'm going to defeat you by being aware of my surroundings. I'm going to defeat you by just taking 2 seconds going, all right, there's an exit there and I can get out there." I mean, that's vital information to know.
hmm,
You took 2 seconds, like, I don't really like it when people are sitting behind me. It doesn't allow me to enjoy this watermelon right now, so I'm going to sit with my back against
uh,
the wall. You know what I mean?
nice,
So you have
nice,
used a lot of wisdom in that, and you
nice,
legitimately made eye contact with your tiger, and you are
nice,
defeating him. So
nice,
excellent to you. Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
But and that is again, this is the to be aware of what is actually happening within you,
yes,
and being able to communicate that, but also maybe put it into its place. Because there were times when I was really ridden so much by fear and so much by that
yes,
situational awareness that it distracted, for example, from that beautiful woman that was actually my wife for, 30 years. And I could not concentrate on her because I was assuring her safety and my safety. And
right,
instead
right.
of romantically looking into her eyes and say, "Well, you look really lovely tonight," within 5 seconds, the door would open, new guest comes in, and I'm distracted. At least I would appear distracted.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you need to be careful what you wish for, and you need to
Right,
be careful how you're perceived. And
right,
it's a hard walk. It's a hard line, a hard path to stay on, to actually satisfy all the needs of yourself, to satisfy the needs of the people around us, because we're not working in
right,
isolation.
right,
And
right,
that's so
right.
hard.
Yeah,
And when it comes to perception, I mean, there's also it's very hard. Sometimes you are perceived to everyone wants to label everyone else into easy categories. Stefan,
right.
oh, in the past he has been drinking too much. He's an alcoholic. Boom.
Uh-huh,
That's it. Stefan, the alcoholic.
uh-huh.
Or Ray, I don't know how you were labeled in the past, maybe in not such a flattering way.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you had labels that you thought, oh, come
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah,
How
yeah.
how do we change that? It's so easy to be labeled, and we see it so modeled in front of us when we look at media. especially in the
Right.
United States,
Uh-huh.
the divided states of America.
Right.
You have got everyone is getting labeled. We see it around the thing. If you raise any concern about any immigration, you're a Nazi.
Mhm.
If you raise anything with regards to um, I don't know, gender, you're automatically transphobic or whatever. It's labels, 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 labels.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ah, has that really gotten
Yeah.
worse, or is it
What?
just my perception?
No, I feel like it has gotten worse, but I'll tell you where I feel the difficulty comes, and not in the United States, but in our own personal lives, is when we get ready to make a change, when we get ready to renew our life, there's people around us that have built their structure on who we are.
Uh,
So, Stefan, when you were an alcoholic, you had friends more than likely that were alcoholics, correct? And so when you got ready to make a change, all of a sudden you're breaking out of this mold and they want to pull you back down to where you used to be.
yeah.
And so sometimes I've had to like just very quietly let friends
Oh,
go
absolutely,
that can't see me in this new light.
absolutely.
Since I've had so much success with speaking, there's
Mm,
certain people I've had to let go because they don't give you the kudos that you should have. They're not there cheering you on. They're not thinking, man, you did a great job finding that money. You did a great job speaking. They're like, I'm just as good as you. Why aren't I? How come I don't have the same thing? You must be lucky. And I'm like,
mm,
yeah, it's weird how the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's just odd how that happens. But the problem is, you have people that build their structure on who you were, and when you get ready to change, it
yeah.
destroys their structure. So they try to pull you back down to that foundation. I'm sure you
Mm,
can think of people like that. I can think of people like
mm,
that,
mm.
that don't want to see me successful because it highlights their lack of creativity or their lack of
Mm,
drive when
mm,
it comes to that.
mm.
So,
Also, their lack of understanding that change is inevitable and that change can
yes,
lead to something remarkable. That
yes,
if you, it doesn't matter if you look at the larvae and the butterfly, or if you look at the phoenix burning in the ashes and then a new
uh-huh,
phoenix arising that is even more beautiful. It is
right,
us having to change in life, and that is sometimes incompatible with
yes,
what people sort of believe in. In all fairness, I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have actually said exactly the same. Even, who am I kidding? Even a year ago, we like, as humans, we like certainty. We like
mhm,
it nicely laid out. See, this is life. It's all very easy. And in
right.
reality, life is constantly changing. Life is
Mhm.
constantly brutal to us, and we have to adapt to changing circumstances. Let it be the
Oh yeah.
climate, or let it be anything else. And sometimes, in my case, a divorce. I've just gone through a divorce, so here
Uh,
I am. Everything, the old Stefan really has died, and has
uh-huh.
completely, the old
Right,
phoenix has burned to ashes. But
right,
there is this unique opportunity here for me
right.
to redefine myself. And
Yeah,
that is very hard because the people around me who knew me, they know the old me.
right.
And now suddenly to grow into something new is difficult for some people to accept. How
Yeah,
can we
and
change that?
yeah, I don't understand why that happens to people because let's say you had a child, right?
Mm.
And at age 5, your child just stopped growing, right? And just yeah, I mean, 4 years down the road, they still look exactly they look like when they were 5 years old. You would get to the place where you go, man, I need to take this child to the doctor because they're not growing, they're not changing. They're somehow stuck at age 5, even though they're age 9 now, right? And so we look at that and we think, man, there's something wrong here. But then when we look at our own lives, right? When we look at who we are as a human being, we want to go, oh, I want to stay the same. I want to be the same. I have somebody I'm thinking about specifically who wants everything to be the same every day for the past 40 years. And I'm like, how can you even think that way? And people for some reason, want to get to the end of their life
Yeah.
in their original packaging. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want to get to the end of my life scarred, torn up, broken bone, foot missing, whatever, because I want to experience all of it, and I go back to that analogy, man. If I look the same as I did last year in my business, if I look the same in my life or my friends, I'm going to have to question and go, why isn't this growing? Why isn't this changing? I look at you as part of my change, just this conversation and just, where this may go somewhere as an
Yeah,
opportunity to, you know,
yeah.
maybe have some kind of combination of work that we do. We're in the same field, and I see this as part of my growth.
It's beautiful. And that is
Mm.
our power because
Mhm.
we can either adhere and try to fight with teeth and claws to
Yes.
go away from, to stay where we were in the past. And how
Uh-huh.
many men are like that when, and me included, guilty as charged. There was a time when I so wanted to be 21 again. And when
Yes.
I was, I had last year I had a relapse. The year before I had a relapse. And during
Uh,
that time, during those 2 weeks of drinking again, I got drunk, but I actually made a point of, whilst I was drunk, making notes. And because I
right.
wanted to figure out what was going on really inside of me, I had that insight. So next morning I woke up and it was very clear there. I wanted to be 21 again.
Mhm.
I did a lot of martial arts then. So I wanted to fight like John Wick. I was a
Okay.
dancer then. Well, I loved to dance, so I was specific. I want to dance with that and that international dancer, and I
Uh-huh.
want to sing like Meatloaf. Now I can't sing for shit, okay? It is just, but I have got fun with it. So I
Yeah.
was seeking joy, I was seeking fun. That was
Right.
missing. But I was at that stage, what
Uh-huh.
was I? 56. Okay, I
Right.
wanted to be 21 again. And that is just so bizarre. It is, and I had to do that. And I'm grateful for that relapse because it actually showed me the underlying weird it's not a core belief. Who
Right.
I wanted to be, that I'm 21 again. My
Right.
goodness, no, no, there are enough
Yeah.
films out there in Hollywood, 17 again, or,
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaky Friday when people change.
Yeah. Yeah.
It should never
You,
happen what you wish for, is it?
yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I'd hate to go back on that. But I talk a little bit about that in my presentations, how our brain wants to go back. Because what happens as we get older, we get a new phone and we wonder, how do you set this phone up? And,
Mm,
how do I put this app? Or I don't know if you've ever gone onto your computer and somehow it's changed
mm.
the font, and then you spend 45 minutes looking for how. And our brain hates that, and it's
Yep.
part of the thing I talk about when it comes to addiction. And so what our brain says is, I don't like this. I remember when it used to be good.
Yep.
Let's go back and,
Oh yeah.
have a saying, let's, make such and such great again. It's impossible. But people have this concept, and it's exactly what happens with people that have an addiction. There's a term for it. It's called euphoric recall. Your brain recodes information
Mm,
so it seems good. Let me give you the
mm,
example on that. Let's say you have a tree, right? And you have an alcoholic driving their car and they smash into this tree. It flips over. They're laying on the ground. You walk up to them. They got a broken arm, back wheels spinning. You can smell gas in the air. And you look at the alcoholic laying on the ground and you say, "Do you think you need to change your life?" That alcoholic is going to look up at you and go, "Yes, yes, I need to change my life. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This will never happen again. I need to change my life." Ambulance comes, picks him up, takes him to the hospital. 2 weeks later, I will approach that alcoholic and go, "Do you need to change your life?" They're like, "No. If that tree hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have hit it." Right? I
ah,
work with, I have an acquaintance, a lady who drove her car off the road, broke her back, army crawled to the road with a broken back. And when they picked her up, she said, "This is it. This is the last day I am ever going to drink." Took her to the hospital. 3 years later, after continuing to drink, she finally got her life together. But when I talked to her about that story, she said, I thought about it. And if there wouldn't have been that little curve in the road, I would have been okay. That's called euphoric recall. That is right there, sir, why your brain wanted to go back and be 21 again. Because when you were 21, that was the good part of your life. And your brain's like, I'm tired of figuring out cell phones. I'm tired of trying to figure out, AI. I'm tired of trying to figure out this app. Tired of figuring out how to put this podcast online. I just want to go back to where it's easier. And that's what happens a lot of times with people that have addictions, is their brain just wants to go back to a time where it can be king, where it can relax and have an easier life. Oh yeah,
Indeed. And in
yeah,
all fairness, we need to forgive ourselves for that. We need to show so much compassion for that. Because after all, alcohol or whatever other vice or escape mechanism you have used, they were there for a purpose.
right.
They were
Oh
there
yeah,
to take away the pain. Okay, let's
right.
not be silly here. There
Mm,
is, you don't choose to drink a poison or behave in a certain way.
right,
But it was at that moment in time, it was the better alternative compared
right,
with the pain that you have been experiencing, often a pain that is invisible to others. And therefore, it's
right,
so hard to accept that. No one knows about the adverse childhood experiences or your sexual
right,
abuse or
right,
the, whatever intergenerational trouble you had, the baggage, the negative experience they were driving
mm.
you and giving you this pain. No one can see them, but
Nobody
they
can see
then,
that.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
so hard.
Everybody, yeah, everybody always looks at the alcoholic or the person using drugs as drugs or alcohol is their problem, when for them, it's usually the solution to a problem. And that's
Absolutely.
the thing that they don't understand, is they think if they would just stop drinking,
Mm,
everything would go good for them. It's not true. It's their brain saying, I am tired of thinking of that. That
mm,
brings me so much pain. Where can I find the pleasure in this? And that's what
mm,
alcohol does and drugs do. And I think
mm,
that's, one of the things I want people to understand.
mm. And then again, if we accept that alcohol is a solution, then
Mhm.
that actually empowers us because we can now say, cool, I've found one solution and I know that
Right.
solution well. Unfortunately, that solution comes with a hell of a hangover for the next 2 days. Maybe, maybe there
Okay.
is there is a different solution out there that
Right.
can equally release my tension, can equally release my pain. And
Right.
nowadays, if I see what I am doing nowadays, there are many other ways. Unfortunately, there are also cross addictions. So you can just
Uh-huh.
move from one addiction to the other. So you stop drinking and then you eat, I don't know, sugar gummies for the next,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you
Whatever it
you
is.
blow out of proportion. Guilty
Uh-huh.
as charged. Been there, done that. And
Uh-huh.
so it's dangerous that you move from one addiction to the other.
Yeah,
Or
you
you
do.
could actually figure out, okay, hang on, anxiety and fear is my main driver. That
Uh-huh.
makes me want to drink. So how can I actually deal with anxiety and fear in a different way? So
Right.
become emotionally intelligent through shadow work, through all the kind of good things that we can do.
Mhm.
Do physical exercise
Right.
and do it regularly. And
Mhm.
that has been quite an amazing
Oh
change
yeah.
for me. A day where I don't do exercise, I don't sleep as well. I
Hmm.
don't, I'm probably more unbalanced. I think that's the
Oh
right
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
us finding new ways to equilibrate, to get into a balance without actually now being late in bed because of your hangover.
Right.
How
Right.
nice would that be? And I think that is
Uh-huh.
the powerful thing. We,
Right.
by us recognizing alcohol and addiction as a solution, it opens the door of actually recognizing that there are alternative solutions with less
Mm.
of a price to pay.
Yeah. Yeah. Less of a price to pay, doesn't make you wreck your car or destroy your relationship. Yeah. And yeah, helps
Mm.
you lean more towards the healthy side. Yeah, without a doubt. Uh,
What was your change? Which solutions did you bring into your life? Because there would have been no doubt there would have been times when you made choices that you were not so proud of.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I don't know if this is a surprise you or not. I don't have a drug use background. And so there's some people that learn from their mistakes. I like to learn from other people's mistakes. And so I came from a house, I'm the baby of the family. So between me and my sister, there's a 7-year difference. Between me and my brother's 14 years, and between me and my oldest brother, there's a 17-year difference.
Mm.
So when I was 5, my brother was 22. And one of my first memories at age 5, this is literally the day my brain turned on. I was in a courtroom watching my 22-year-old brother go to a federal penitentiary for smuggling heroin into the United States from Mexico. And so
Shit.
we lived right on the border of San Diego and Tijuana,
Yeah.
and it was super easy to walk across the border and back. And he finally got busted after doing this for 4 years. And it's a crazy story, but he actually saved my life. Just before they marched him off, he had an opportunity to hug me, gave me a kiss on my cheek, and he whispered in my ear, he said, "Little brother, don't do drugs, man. Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs." And that's like the first thing I remember going into my head for my older brother.
Wow.
And so my background was watching my brother go to prison, watching my other brother in and out of jail, watching my dad drink and fight, my sister, and I've asked permission if I could say this. My sister probably did drugs this morning, and my mom was a nice lady and she drank and she would yell at us. And so the thing is, I wanted to know what that mechanism was. What was the thing that caused my mom to be a nice lady? She drank and then he fought. And that's what I had to find out in my life. So when it goes back to the question, like, what have I learned to do? I've learned to like learn from other people's mistakes.
Mm.
I see like a cause and effect is always going through my brain.
Mm.
Why is this happening? Well, it's because A, B, and C, and now it equals D. And so that's one of the things. But going back to exactly what you said, man, if I skip the gym for a couple days in a row, there's just my brain just starts, having to do some kind of mental gymnastics,
Mm.
or
Mm.
if I eat certain foods now, yeah, it just causes me not to sleep well. And so
Mm.
I try to monitor all of that stuff. And as a doctor, I'm sure you did the same
Mm.
thing.
Exactly.
You would have to look at people's diets, you'd have
Mm.
to look at their exercise, you'd have to look
Mm.
at their work schedule.
Mm.
I knew I was going to be sitting here doing a podcast for quite a while, so I spent a little extra time walking this morning,
Nice.
because I knew
Nice.
cause and effect. Yeah.
Nice. Beautiful. 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 You it's interesting. Here you have got the childhood that is clearly full of adverse childhood experiences. No two ways around
Hmm.
it. You
Right.
would have been automatically at a much higher risk of becoming an alcoholic yourself.
Right.
There are potentially a genetic setup, certain genes that are running in your family that makes it a bit more likely for you to become an alcoholic and fall prey to drugs or to any kind of other behavior that gives you that dopamine rush. Let that be
Right.
gambling, let that give whatever it is. Yet you went against the stream, and I'm so pleased for you. Having said that, I also believe that you have evaded my question quite effectively,
Oh,
because
dang it. I was
because
hoping you wouldn't notice. Yeah.
you're a master in the game. I give you that. I think the reality is you will have made choices that you are not proud of.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You will have lived in a fashion that is not full of integrity, that is
Right.
not you were a different man when you were younger. And I
Hmm.
wonder what lessons did you learn from those times and how did you change? How did you transform?
Yeah. You know what? I love it. And I'm glad you brought me back to that because I'm thinking of a specific event right now where I did not act with integrity.
Mm.
And what I realized is it in the long run, it went against who I am as a human being because it seems like both you and I are cut from the same cloth. We want to help people. We want
Mm.
people to be
Mm.
elevated. We want people to find their passion and go in the right direction. And as I think back on this, when I did a couple of things that were really of low honor, it hurt people, and
Mm.
it caused them to question who they were and what they were doing.
Mm.
It did the opposite of what I like doing in people's lives. So I know now that there are times where I have reversed that, where the detriment came to me as opposed to the other person. The pain
Mm.
came to me as opposed to the other person
Mm.
because I had to stand up and go, you know what? What I did right here is not correct. And I am willing to I don't want to say suffer the consequences because that the word suffer the consequences, I want to pay the price that I should have paid. I want to make my debt correct. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so when I have acted that way, it goes back to that me wanting to see the cause and effect of things.
That honors you because I mean that is if you were to think about the 12 steps, that's steps 8 and 9, where you make
Yeah,
amends.
right.
And it's hard because sometimes making amends can be the most beautiful thing and give you peace. It is
Uh,
essentially it's the issue of forgiveness, forgiveness to others and forgiveness to yourself.
right.
And maybe you are being forgiven for what you have done. So there's a
Yes.
lot of beautiful growth waiting there to happen. At the same token, there are situations where it is questionable if the price is worth it. For example, if you have stolen some money from a relative and you now go back and say, I'm really, really sorry. Here are the $200 back. Actually, I give you $300 back and I hope you can forgive me,
Right.
then this is a beautiful thing. If
Right.
you have done something which has a felony charge and you predictably will go to prison, despite the fact that actually you have already turned your life around, you have living amends, you're going out there and are really being this beautiful, beautiful person who is already changing lives and making this world a better place. The question is, should you do amends just for the sake of it and go to prison? And
Yeah.
it is
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a deep moral question right there that you're asking. Yeah. So I think you would need to weigh those things out, and see where you are in life. And if you're
Mm.
not being productive, or
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I
Isn't it?
love
Isn't
that.
it? I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I'm just thinking about it, the pros and cons of
yeah,
actually doing amends. And I wrote in that in my book, My Steps to Sobriety. And
right.
it is so important. We need these are all questions that are weighing us down. But one way
Hmm.
or the other, we need to address them. We all
Right,
have done things that we are not proud of. And we
right.
all are sometimes held back by those things, by shame and guilt. And if we could actually put that aside, if we
Uh-huh.
can grow emotionally um, astute, that we actually find out that how we tick, that we can feel the feelings, name them, and know where they're coming from, see them not as a burden, but as messengers, maybe from our body, from our soul,
Right.
maybe from the universe. If we
Uh-huh.
actually become more aware of what's going on within us,
Hmm.
the shame, the guilt, the fear avoidance, the complete falling apart, when
Right,
we actually see all what is happening, make sense out of it, put a purpose
right,
to it,
right.
and then
I think
actually
that's
say,
called taking a personal inventory, right?
"Oh yeah, touche, touche,
That's it. Yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
absolutely." But with
Yeah.
that allows us to then actually say, "Good, this thought that I've got, well, that's actually BS, bad science.
Right,
Forget about it. Over
right,
there."
right.
This thought
Yeah.
is actually quite real. This is the tiger that needs to be addressed right now. I love the tiger and the watermelon field.
Uh-huh.
And these are the things that are, yes, this is just such an ingrained old fear. That's the LP, the vinyl that runs with the same scratch in it again and again and again. No, that's bullshit. We
Right.
need to just destroy that vinyl and move on.
Yeah. Yes, without a
Oh,
doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
man, how can we do that? How can we? I mean, you will have done a lot of work along those lines.
Mhm.
What are the low-hanging fruit? We've touched upon a lot of things, and they can, in their own right, look overwhelming to
Mhm.
anyone if they say, "Oh my God, now I need to feel my feelings." You got to be joking. So far, in
Yeah.
the last 50 years, the only feeling I had was hunger first, and I need to go to the toilet. And now you expect me to differentiate between
Right.
depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, positive, negative feelings. Where do you
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. Where do you start? I think what there's that saying is, how do you eat a whole elephant? It's just one bite at a time. And I
Exactly.
think the problem is, when we had kids, man, I would look at the house and I think, oh my gosh, why do we even clean? These kids are just, have destroyed the house. And when you look at it as one big project, it's overwhelming and you can't, take it on.
Yeah.
But going to answer your question, I think you need to look and go, all right, I'm just going to start with the kitchen. That's
Yeah.
all I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean a
Yeah.
little bit here and get the kitchen clean. And then once the kitchen's clean, then you go, all right, maybe I'll move into the living room and clean the living room.
Um,
And so I think if somebody's going to start making those changes in their lives and overcoming their fear, I think that they would need to just pick one part of their life first and
mm,
go, this much needs to be clean, but I'm just going to start with this little bit right here. I am
mm,
going to make sure that these four people in my life I have made straight with. I
mm.
have,
Nice.
done restitution. I
Nice.
have cleared
Nice.
my conscience. So when I look at them, I know I am not hiding anything from them. Then once you do those four people, then you start moving on to other projects. But
Mm,
I think that's the thing is most people look at it as a whole as opposed to one little
mm,
bite at a time,
mm.
you know.
Very good start. I call it the 5 minute gardener principle. Imagine
Uh-huh.
you have got a garden, and from now on, you decide every day, come rain or shine, you will spend 5 minutes in the garden. One day you
Yes.
pick some weeds, one day you put a new plant in, one day you prune.
Right.
Within a week, you will see a difference. Within a
Yes.
month, your family will say, "Oh, garden looks nice." And within 3 months, you will get bus tours coming and saying, "Wow, great garden, best garden of town." It
Yes.
is 5 minutes. So it's the consistency that you put your effort in. And I think that's why 95% of diets fail. That's why 95%
Hmm.
of New Year's resolutions fail. We put it
Right.
all as a all or nothing, and we will fail. Whilst if we
Right.
actually say, no, my new goal is that, we completely overestimate what you can achieve in a small period of time, and we completely underestimate what you can achieve in a longer period of time.
Right. Right.
So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. That's so true.
mm.
Yeah. A 5 minute gardening. I'm taking that one from you.
No, it's just, and that encourages me, because in 5 minutes alone, you're not seeing much of a difference. But if you do
Mhm.
that every day, I've recently done push-ups, and in the sense of, I put my focus on it. I realized my arms, I actually want stronger arms, for crying out
Mhm.
loud. And
Mhm.
so I began to do push-ups, and every day I'm doing them. And I do, and I break them up over the day. So I'm now at between 100 and 200 push-ups a day, and that is just something where you just do more and more and
Right.
more. And initially you can't do two in a row, and then finally you just do
Mm.
do 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 do. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're building it up, and you can do that. And that's the same with any kind of things that scare you, this
Right.
kind of um what is the word? Fear inoculation. That's the word.
Mhm.
It's
Yes.
what the army uses very effectively. Tier one operators, they are constantly living outside of their comfort zone. And
Right.
therefore, it's constant fear inoculation. They are just as shit scared as you and me when it comes to running into the fray. But in
Right.
reality, they know fear well, and they know how to surmount it, how to deal with it, how to compartmentalize and say, yes, I'm afraid. I'm afraid even of my life, but let's push that
Right.
aside and
Yes.
do it.
Yeah. So
And it's
true.
it's those kind of things. So I think there is so much that we can actually learn, that we can practice. So we are not the victims. We are not the kind of paralyzed little deer in the headlights. We have
Hmm.
got the power of choice. And I think
Right.
you are modeling that. I think you
Yeah.
are going out there in your life. You being a public speaker, coming in full circle to the fact that most people have got a fear of public speaking, yet here you are making a living out of it. Well, for some
Yeah.
people, that would be the definition of hell. And
Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah.
if I was to lend you my time machine, and I let you
Mhm.
go back in time to a younger version of yourself, maybe that
Mm.
little kid at school that was talking and talking and playing up, what message would you send back to that child?
I would probably tell that child that things that I think are my weakness will eventually become my strengths. My inability to always have to
Mm,
be part of the conversation someday will become my strength. The pain that I'm going through with a family that has an addiction, somewhere down the road will become the foundation of who I am as a human being and to be able to speak on that. Because you look at those things, when I would look at my dad, as a kid fighting, or my brother in jail, or my sister being arrested for drugs. And I would look at that as a kid and I think, man, what a terrible family. This is just awful. What good can come from this? And I'm sure you probably maybe thought the same thing when you were in your like, what good can come from this addiction that you have?
Mm.
But look at your life now. Look at how you have taken those broken pieces of rock and made this incredible artwork. And now you have a podcast. Now you are doing things in the community. Now you're changing people's lives, but it had to come through
Mm.
that tragedy. And
Mm.
that's what I think most people don't do is they allow a tragedy to be the tragedy for the rest of their life, as opposed to going, how can I take that pile of broken
Mm.
rocks and make a fence? Or how can I make a sculpture out of it? Or
Mm.
how can I turn it into something?
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things, just what little I know of you, I think that's one of the things that we both are able to do is take that awfulness and turn it into something that's amazing that people
Mm.
can look at, because that's my hope when I'm talking to
Mm. Yeah.
kids. I want kids to go, man, I come from the same type of background as this guy. And I've had plenty of kids come up to me and go, my dad drank, my mom drank, and I want them to go, don't look at that as like a tragedy. Somehow allow that to become the fuel that'll launch you,
Mm. Mm.
into an amazing career, or have you change lives, or have you invent something that's gonna, better people. And
I love
I
that.
think that's what I would, gosh, that man, if that was little me listening to me right now, I would have stopped listening a long time ago. But yeah,
Well, that's
I would
another
go
problem.
back. I would go back and say your weaknesses someday will become your strengths. That's my answer. Oh, man,
I
I
like
just did
that.
the
I
public
like that.
speaker thing and went too far.
No, 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 not at all, not at all. Because I threw you that curveball and you
Yeah,
picked it up nicely. The reality is we have got choice. Again, it comes down to choice.
right.
To the trauma, we can't do anything about it. But we have got a choice then to repackage it. And
Right.
in this particular case, you could think about kintsugi, which is a Japanese art of taking broken porcelain and
Yes.
using gold glue and creating something new, something really
Mhm.
beautiful out of the brokenness. Or you
Right.
could imagine the shards and the broken parts of your old life, and you are taking those shards and creating them into stepping stones for a
Mhm.
new life.
Right.
And we all have got those choices. We all can reframe what has happened to us. Unfortunately,
Yes.
we do it in all the wrong ways, like the euphoric memories of drinking. Oh, look how good my old life was. That's a
Yeah. Yeah.
reframing
Yeah.
that you're doing. You have got the
Right.
same positive reframing waiting for you to
Yes.
actually say, yes, I was a beep for doing X, Y, and Z, but now
Right.
I'm want to turn that around and take that really memory that still hurts me and still gives me actually a physical response of cringing or something like that, and use
Right.
that power, that physical response to do something about it. And
Right.
that's
Right.
often enough called, I mean, again, in 12-step system, it would be the living amends. So
Yes.
you might not be able to actually go back and take it back the way you treated that checkout girl on that day when you were feeling really bad. But from now on, you can make a point of putting a smile on every checkout girl's face and making their day by giving
Exactly.
them a compliment or something like that. So
Yeah.
you can change, you can reframe, you can learn from where you have been. And I think that's our strength. That's
Right.
is that's when we go out there and become that new version. And people sometimes say, well, how do you do that? Why are you like that? I think it's
Mhm.
because of all the bad choices I've made. And
Yes.
now I know I've been in the darkness. Now I know the light and the benefit of the light. And I want to be that light in the life of others. That's my
Right.
purpose. I mean,
Right.
with all
Right.
that crap that has happened to me and that maybe I was partially responsible as well, my God, there must be a sense behind that. There must be a
Yeah.
purpose, you know?
Yeah. There's got to be a purpose. Yeah, yeah. And I think our
Yeah.
brain looks for that purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Can I plug my book right here? Because it's
Oh,
almost
hell
exact.
yes. Hell yes,
Oh
brother.
yeah, yeah. I wrote this book called Addicted to Learning,
Yeah.
and so what it is easy to find on Amazon. Just Addicted to Learning. What it has done is I've taken those stories from my family.
Yeah.
And so I talk about my brother, bringing drugs over. I
Yeah.
talk about my dad fighting. And then once I tell the story about watching my dad during this time during a fight, then I go into the explanation of when my dad drank, here's what took place inside his brain,
Mm.
here's how it lowered his inhibitions,
Yeah.
and so I
Nice.
do the explanation of why that drug causes that person to do that. I have a chapter in there where I talk about a tour of my sister's homes. And so my sister was about every 6 months constantly moving. She did math, she cooked math, she, you know, transported math, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so I would visit her at one house, and it would be a broken down trailer with a bunch of cars, parked outside, taken apart. Then 6 months later, I would visit her again, and it was inside a storage unit that she was living. And then one time I visited her, in a house that was made out of pellets. And so I do this whole tour of my sister's homes, and then I go on to explain how meth takes away from my sister the thing that we have, where life isn't the important thing anymore. Getting the drug is the important thing.
Mm.
For
Mm.
me, my house is an important thing
Mm.
because it represents who I am. For my sister, she didn't have that. Meth took that away from her. So a home wasn't important to her. So living in a house made out of pellets was fine for her. And I explain these things. And then I also talk in the book because the one thing
Mm.
I get from parents all the time, not all the time, but quite often, is how can my kids steal from me? How can my own child come into the house, go through my purse, take my credit card, and take money from me? And I'm like, well, this is where they have gotten to when it comes to drugs and alcohol. You're not the important thing anymore. The drug is the important thing.
Mm.
You are in the way of them getting to the important thing.
Mm.
I said, so when they steal from you, they don't see you as a family member. They see you as a stepping stone to
Mm.
that reward,
Mm.
to that drug. And I explain all that. I said, it doesn't make it feel better. It doesn't make it okay. It just helps you to understand how can they steal from you when you're a family member. And I've
Beautiful.
had that conversation so many times,
Mm.
and parents will tell me, man, thank you for
Mm.
helping me to understand that,
Mm.
you know.
These are beautiful, beautiful examples that you're bringing out there, and they are so difficult to understand. So thank you
Mm.
for describing some complex issues in a very simple language and giving an example to that. That is exactly what a good teacher does. So thank you so much. And your book is available on Amazon. Your book is
Amazon, Addicted to Learning, super easy to find. Yeah.
brilliant. And if people want to get in touch with you, if people want to follow you, etc., how can they do that?
Super. Again, I make it real easy. Just Ray Lozano, RayLozano.com. And I don't know how it would work in New Zealand, but if you're in the United States and you Google youth speaker or drug youth speaker, I will be the first one on page one on Google. So
Nice
when it
one.
comes to presentation at school, I
Yeah.
am who a lot of schools are looking for.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Ray, you're an amazing man. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for an in-depth discussion where we touched upon the complexities of life, but also where we hopefully gave many examples how we are in fact in control because we have got the option of choice. We can respond to external or internal stimuli in different ways, and that
Mm,
choice is a privilege. That choice is a true option, a true
mm.
possibility for us to become the best version of ourselves. But we
Yes.
need to
Yeah.
live with intention. We need to actually be aware of what is going on within us. And for each
Mhm.
and every one out there, that will look different for you guys. But take one example, take one issue in your life, and I encourage you for the next 30 days to put 5 minutes a day aside to address that
Yes.
issue.
Yeah.
And maybe whilst you're there, maybe do the other 10 minutes of the day, use that for something that predictably will make you a better human. That could
I
be
love it.
10 minutes of you looking at your nutrition for the next month, or
Right.
10 minutes of trying to get just a little bit more activity or even exercise into
Right.
your life. Not much. So far, I've asked you for 15 minutes of your time, which is incidentally 1% of your waking day. Could you
Mhm.
spend 1% of your day on becoming a
Yeah.
better human being?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
think yes.
Yeah.
Please, please, please trust me. The power
Yeah.
of compound interest will propel you forward in a way that you could never have imagined. So
Yes.
whatever kind of shit you're living in right now, whatever is overwhelming you, please don't give up. There is
Mhm.
hope, there is help, and both Ray and I are living examples why you should never give up. I mean, here, look at us numbnuts here. And
Yeah.
here we are laughing and having fun and having a blast by talking
Yeah.
about some very uncomfortable topics.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine that one day you are
Yeah.
in
I
our
could. Yeah.
place or in our
Yeah.
midst? How cool is
Yeah.
that? Talk about a
Excellent.
brotherhood and sisterhood of people who have made a lot of mistakes and have
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
themselves
Yeah.
a lot of bad choices, and
Yeah.
how we
So
can
true.
grow from that. How cool is that, eh?
Love it. Love it. Love it, man. It's a good place to end on. So yeah, I love
Isn't
it.
it? Ray,
Yeah.
thank you so much. You're an
Okay.
amazing guest. Thank you so much. It was a
Thank you.
privilege to have you on my show. Look after yourself and live with passion and intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up.